Hello and welcome to the Brick News, the formerly weekly show on all things brick building, where we talk about set updates and announcements from all the major brands, MOCs of the week, and a few reading recommendations as well. Information is presented as always by setdb.org, the best source for set information on the internet. We are back, and I don't know, should I apologize again? Because I think this is the second long break that we took from the weekly news show, but I do hope starting from today that we will be able to basically resume our original schedule. Actually, I think we are at episode 57, while the German one is at episode 168. So, well, technically I did start the German version of the weekly news show a few months prior back in the day. Nevertheless, I took two very long breaks. But I can assure you, I've been busy. We have been working hard on the database, so merlinsbricks.com or /setdb.org. We have added a ton of new brands, a ton of additional sets, so we're now at almost 20,000 sets. Obviously, the majority is still Lego, but we have 62 brands overall, so we have been working hard to add more brands or some more shop partners to give you up-to-date prices and availabilities, etc., etc. So we have the Europeans, of course, BlueBrixx, Lego, Cobi. We have the Americans with Mega or Mega Constructs, Mattel, whatever you may call it, and of course all the many Chinese brands, a Japanese brand with Nano Block. So we have been working hard to get the database more accurate. Obviously, we are still very far away from being complete, but I think the most important brands are here, especially the ones that you can buy over in Europe or North America, I would argue, but we will of course continue to invest into making the database more complete. For those of you who see this show for the very first time, so what I used to do, and hopefully will do again, is that on a weekly basis, we will look through, like I said in the beginning in the intro, we will go through, let's say, the most important updates on the set side, go to the biggest and most important brands. So not obviously, depending on where you live, the set availability that I'm talking about may not be for you. For instance, BlueBrixx, for instance, is a German brand. Obviously, they ship within Europe. They, I think, ship also to North America, to my knowledge. But of course, like I said, all of this may vary. I will also mention from time to time, I talk about prices, that of course prices also may depend on where you live. So usually with especially the Chinese shops, it usually includes shipping. However, that in this case, I pick shipping into Central Europe, usually Germany, as a reference. Obviously, again, depending on where you live, even within Europe, the shipping may vary. And then of course is customs and other stuff. Just keep that in mind. Also for the international audience, usually North American prices do not include, or US prices I should rather say, do not include VAT or tax, while on the other hand in the European Union, all the prices that you see here do include tax. So again, depends a little bit. Nevertheless, we'll go through this on a weekly basis. Also another update for those of you who have seen this in the past on YouTube. I mean, like I've done always, there's also an audio version that you can find on all the podcast platforms of your desire, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc., etc. I also started a couple of months ago, and I will do this also for this English version, not just the German one, that I update a video file also on Spotify. So on Spotify, you can, like on YouTube, you can watch this also in a video format. However, the YouTube will continue to be the main platform. The simple reason is that Spotify, unfortunately, the way Spotify works is they pick up my audio RSS feed, and when they have picked up a new episode, then you can upload the video file, like as an addendum, if you will, an additional attachment, if you will. So that means there will be a delay. So the episode will show up on Shopify. Did I say Shopify? I mean Spotify, of course. And then maybe a day or two, depending, because it's a manual process, I have to upload the video file. Last, some of you may know that I've also now a TikTok outlet. It's a small thing, but if I can keep the episode below 60 minutes, which is the goal, then I will also be able to upload it on TikTok, because TikTok has a 30-minute upload limit. So, long story short, 3 video versions: YouTube, Spotify, and TikTok, and then audio on all the typical podcast platforms. Well, Without further ado, let's get started, and we will always go through the brands in alphabetical order. And here we have now availability over here in Europe for the Frankfurter Römer house number 4. So this is kind of a diorama, if you will, a series by BlueBrixx. So first of all, the city of Frankfurt in the heart of Europe, or the heart of Germany, I should rather say, but technically it's actually in the center of Europe. City is kind of the financial center of Germany, basically since the war. However, it's also, they have like this very famous marketplace, and around the marketplace you can see these buildings. So this is what BlueBrixx took as a reference. They did these kind of sets also in the past for Amsterdam. So they were saying 4 or 5 Amsterdam sets, and now they have done the same thing for Frankfurt. The idea, I guess, is this is, I mean, obviously you can put this on a shelf, but what is also interesting, that you can use these maybe as a background for your MOC. So if you're building a very large diorama, I mean, of the big problem that a lot of folks have, usually they put something like a light blue on the wall. The problem is, of course, well, I have my awesome MOC, my diorama, my city, my Lego city, and then in the background it's a wall, and that does not really fit. So these sets could be interesting for you. So as the number suggests, BlueBrixx has actually done an entire lineup of these. I think overall it's 6 sets, and I think 4 of them are now available. So this is number 4, the 105282, and BlueBrixx is selling these for $100. And again, in Europe that includes tax, but I think that price is without shipping, so your mileage may vary. This is going to cost you 3.5 cents a piece, or 5 cents per gram. Obviously the weight is calculated by the set DB based on the pieces. I have not weighted this set myself. However, if you have built this set, and I'm not sure if I've talked about this feature in the past, but if you have built this set and you put this on your scale and you figure out, hey, that's wrong, it's not 2 kilograms, it's actually slightly less, then there is a form that is now attached to every set DB set page. It's called missing or wrong data. After that, you have to log in. And hopefully you cannot see my credentials now. No, you can't. And when you have logged in, basically you will find a form that you can use to send me a correction or an addition of data. For instance, release year 2022 is definitely wrong for this set. So let's save this now. And then this change request, and actually this is already number 1098. So a lot of folks are sending me in these change requests. Basically, yeah. Like I said, you can add data, like for instance, you have figured out, hey, there are actually stickers in the set, or you have counted the building steps, stuff like that. Just send me this form or send me this change request. I will take a look at it and usually add it to the database rather quickly. If you have figured out or seen a problem, or if need a fix or data mistake and it's not going to work through this form, you can also, of course, send me an email. Anyhow, let's move on. Beer Rock Castle, for those of you who may not know, this is actually kind of a series from BlueBrixx as well. So they have done multiple of these Beer Rock Castle elements, and it's basically like a modular castle. It is from a design style very different than the, let's say, the big 18+ castles of BlueBrixx. This is rather, let's say, more straightforward, more like a kid's playset kind of vibe that comes with Beer Rock Castle. Blaustein Castle, on the other hand, is the grown-up version, if you will, with like nowadays more than 20,000 pieces if you buy all of the components. Anyhow, this thing here is smaller, but it's also highly modular. You use basically Technic pins, and then you can basically build your own castle. Anyhow, I've talked about this one in the past. There's now a new extension. It's called the Alchemist Tower 108111. And as always with BlueBrixx, this is just an announcement. At this point in time, we do not know a release date or a price for that matter. With that, we're moving on to 3, what BlueBrixx usually calls a brick body. And usually they have like a fictional reference from pop culture. However, I'm actually, like as always, I'm a bit ignorant. My apologies. I actually do not know what these 3 brick bodies belong to. So this may be familiar if you come from the Lego world. Brick bodies in BlueBrixx terms are very similar to brickheads in the Lego universe. However, as you can see, they have like a different design language, especially the head is a lot bigger than the torso is, which is of course not Lego's design language, at least not for most brick heads. So this is very different, and I think on average they also have more pieces. So this one here is called the Possessed with a Nausea. No. The 108222, it has 290 pieces. It's coming out of the BlueBrixx sub-brand ModBrixx. And then you have the Masked Man with Homesickness, the 108221. That's going to have 223 pieces. And last but surely not least is the Undead Hockey Player, the 108220, 347 pieces. Actually, I honestly don't know the pop culture reference. BlueBrixx, as always, is not doing any license deals for these. Or that's not true. They have a couple of licenses like Star Trek or Stargate, but they also do a ton of sets without having a license. As a result, of course, they cannot call out what the pop culture reference is, but I'm pretty sure there's one. So please enlighten me, put this in the comment section. I'm actually really curious because I have no idea. What I do know about is the display set Typ 7 U-boat or Type 7 U-boat, or in German Typ 7 U-boat. So this is obviously a Type 7. I mean, like the name suggests, this is like the main submarine that the German German Navy, my apologies, used during World War II. I think to this day it is the submarine that has been built the most. I think the German Navy had more than 700 of these. This is by BlueBrixx now is set a 108224. So I mean, Type 7, it is one of the most famous submarines in history. However, and in fact, a ton of sets have been made. I mean, Cobi made a couple, so if you just look for Type 7, there is a ton of sets in the database. So Cobi did several of these, but also, for instance, Panlos did the very famous 628011. I think you can already see the star rating. This thing is beloved by many who have an interest in, let's say, a naval history. Personally, I was not I mean, it's a good set, so my rating was actually 8. The average rating of the community is 9.5. So a lot of people loved it, and it was an enormous behemoth of a submarine. With the model had 1 meter and 20 centimeters in length. So that was huge. However, and by the way, I don't know what that is in inches. My apologies. So yeah, maybe I should start doing a calculation of imperial as well. My sincere apologies. However, for those of you who do understand what a centimeter is, or a meter for that matter, this thing now by BlueBrixx is almost 160 centimeters. So that's 1 meter and 60 centimeters. That is unbelievable huge. And I guess they have a ton of technique in there to basically hold this thing together. It's enormous. I mean, a ship shape is relatively easy to do. It's kind of, I mean, that's the way this is, this is how they are designed. They're very robust by nature. But nevertheless, I think I'm really looking forward to this one, and I'm seriously considering building this one. It has 7,800 pieces, designed by Matteo, and yeah, it is like I said, it is a behemoth, and of course, with that size and that scale, it's going to be very accurate. That's what I expect. Compared to the Panlos one, I do assume that the interior will not be as big based on these pictures, but I think you can open up, I mean, as you can see here, like a section in the center. Anyhow, that's for sure an update. And then we have a typical European fire brigade railroad truck. That's what they call it, the 108 Railroad. Interesting. 108 215 by a new designer, actually, Christian. I've never seen that name before, so that's new. Anyhow, it's going to be a BlueBrixx special, a 6-stud fire brigade vehicle in the typical European fashion, 485 pieces. This thing is going to be 23 centimeters in length. All right, moving on to the modern electric articulated bus, 2-in-1 set, 108 219, and the 2-in-1 mechanism is quite interesting. Though the idea is not that you're basically rebuilding the bus in order to get the short version that is not articulated, but this thing is entirely modular. It's held together by Technic pins. Not sure how robust this is going to be, especially if you would like to use it as a playset. But nevertheless, it is modular, so basically you can, I don't know, you can, I guess, even buy multiple of these sets and create the bus of your dreams. I don't know. Based on the design, I would say it's a European bus as well. I mean, again, BlueBrixx is a German company, and yeah, it looks quite nice. However, I think it's a bit, I don't know, the ratio of height to width is a bit weird, if you ask me. It looks slightly too skinny to a certain degree. Anyhow, if you build it out in full length, it's 43.5 centimeters in length and 9.4 in height and 6.4 in width. Yeah, that is actually quite interesting. It's quite a bus. And then we have the Scottish Museum Railway. And very unfortunately, again, BlueBrixx has, I guess, no license here, so they haven't told us what this is. But nevertheless, I mean, let's skip the museum. They could just tell us what locomotive this is. I honestly don't know. Again, apologize my ignorance. If you do know, and if you know what museum this thing can be found, I found actually a few pictures online of locomotives that look very different, very similar. I'm sorry. But yeah, I don't know. But I do know it's quite a nice set, the 108-216. So this is the locomotive itself. It's going to cost, I know we do not know what's going to cost, of course, but we do know it's going to have 1,176 pieces. And then they have created a ton of cars, I think 6 sets overall. So they have first class compartment, first class saloon, second class compartment, second class saloon. Then they have a souvenir shop. I guess that's something that's museum specific. And then they have the restaurant car, and all of them have like 700-800 pieces in a nutshell, between 700 and 800. And I do believe, yeah, it's always the same, like 700 to 800. They all have the same color scheme. I guess this is like dark red, a little bit of pearl gold, and then with a dark bluish gray roof. Looks quite beautiful actually. This is a 6-stud car. I mentioned that because BlueBrixx is also doing a lot of 8-stud locomotives and cars recently. Oh no, it's not that recently anymore, but basically I have 2 lines, like 6-stud and 8-stud. And of course, very different sizes. So here you go. And with that, we're moving on to Cobi. And here we have now pre-order capabilities, or pre-order is now available for the IS-3 Soviet heavy tank, the 2590 from Cobi. This is the regular version. Of course, the limited edition you can only buy directly from Cobi. I actually do not know how it is outside of Europe. I don't know, is Cobi delivering limited edition sets to North America? I actually don't know. Again, let me know in the comment section if you have some experience there. But anyhow, that this was the 2589, has been out for a couple of weeks now, and now the standard edition is going to follow. In general, with Cobi, for those of you who don't know, Cobi usually has 3 different versions of their sets. Usually they do only 2 of them, depending on the individual set. So for instance, in this case, they did a limited edition and a standard edition. We will come in a second to a set where they do a so-called executive edition and a standard edition. They almost always do standard, and then sometimes they do limited, which is, of course, as the name suggests, a limited, plus you can only buy it from Cobi directly. And executive is similar to limited, also a bigger set, or there's basically more stuff in it, but you can also get it freely available from the market, and like the name suggests, it's not limited. So these are the difference. So executive limited are usually, they have a couple more extras, usually more minifigures and stuff like that. And then the standard is a bit more bare bone. The vehicle itself is usually very similar. However, again, it depends. Sometimes, for instance, with tanks, limited edition is an entirely different set with entirely different color scheme, like a winter version, and sometimes it just has 1 or 2 prints more. But again, it depends on the set, but we will go through this in a second. I mean, in this example, you can see this. The limited edition is for the Berlin Victory Parade, and it has these 4 generates there on a pedestal with the 4 flags. Of course, this could be a very nice addition to a tank collector's collection. I'm not really sure where all the generates are. I guess this is Patton, right? I don't know, maybe this is Montgomery, not sure. This could be de Gaulle, and I don't know the Soviet general here. I mean, it's clear that he's Soviet because he has a lot more bling bling on his chest. Anyhow, then you have the 4 flags. What is interesting that Cobi did not put the symbol, the Soviet symbol on the Soviet flag. It's just bare bone red. I don't know. That's interesting. But long story short, this was the limited edition. And now let's come to the main object here, where the news is all about. You can now pre-order the IS-3 Soviet Heavy Tank 2590. We have a couple of more information on this one. It's going to have 1,170 pieces. There's one minifigure. I guess that's a Soviet tank driver at scale, of course, by 1:28, though that's Cobi's minifigure scale here for this tank. It has an interior, as always with Cobi's tanks. I mean, most tanks. I mean, Maus, for instance, these huge, enormous tanks, they have a complete interior. The 1x28 usually have just a few compartments. Typically, it's the engine room, as you can see here, but that also includes pad printed pieces, which is very nice. By the way, Cobi, basically, they don't do stickers anymore. Everything is pad printed. The airplanes sometimes have stickers, but usually all the new sets are 100% pad printed. I guess with that, they're almost like market leader nowadays, at least from the European manufacturers. Lego is still very far away from that situation. Anyhow, they also have then usually an interior below the tower, or the turret, I should rather say. So yeah, and this is actually the case here as well. And like I said, everything you see here, I assume, is going to be pad printed. This thing is 35.5 centimeters in length, 13 height, and 11.5 in width. And again, just centimeters here. You can pre-order this, for instance, in Europe from BlueBrixx for around 80 bucks, 80 euros, that is, and North America from BlueBrixx, for instance, for $100 US. With that, we're moving on to the Lancia Delta HF Integrale Evo Executive Edition 24356. So this is an example of Executive Edition. You can get this from retail, for instance, over here from BlueBrixx. It's not limited, but it has a lot more stuff in it than the regular version has, and it's also different because the Executive Edition is this racing edition here of this very famous Lancia, actually from rally driving. It's still the same hatchback, of course, as the regular edition is, and with the 1x12 vehicles, only the executive editions come with this display stand, which actually is quite beautiful. I should also know, for those of you who come from Lego, Cobi actually knows how to make large tiles. So these are not, they don't have this matte finish, this very ugly matte finish, for instance, that Lego has with the 6x6 tile or the 8x16 tile. They do actually know how to do a glossy finish. Usually there are no Angus points on the tile as well. That's at least my experience. However, it's still plastic and still black. So fingerprints is a big issue, dust is a big issue, keep that in mind. Cobi is doing very good pieces here, but yeah, it has limits. What I've also seen in the past, I've built a couple of these 1x12, that usually this thing is bending a little bit. It's most of the cases, it's not flat on the table. Keep that in mind as well. I mean, Cobi is making amazing pieces, some of the best in the industry, but there are limits of what you can do with the system. Anyhow, here we go, the Lancia Integrale, and you can buy this one over here in Europe for around 120 bucks. Not much cheaper, actually, is the standard edition. By the way, I think I've mentioned that before, limited and executive are not only bigger, usually they also come earlier. So this is now the cheapest one. You can pre-order this over here in Europe for around 105 bucks. So it's not much less, this is why I personally think that the racing edition, the executive edition, is a better deal, but that of course depends on what you want. So this is the more regular road version in red, 24357. Executive edition is 24356. And like I said, you can pre-order this one for around 105 bucks. Then we have a new Jaki set, the Space Shuttle 8513. Pretty nice model. I do not know a piece count. It's going to cost you from China around $100 US. Again, shipping may depend on where you live, but the set itself is actually quite a behemoth. It's 50 centimeters in height, so that's not a small one. And as you can see, it has a certain, let's say, I think the idea is to make a set that is interesting for people who have an interest in the technology itself of the space shuttle. As you can see, you can look into the boosters, you can look into the shuttle itself or the lander. I'm actually not sure. I think you cannot look into the fuel tank, so this one is closed up, but I guess that's fine, not that interesting. And you can also put it, make it, I think it's all completely modular. So you have the tower itself, you have the boosters, the tank, the shuttle, and yeah, you can arrange them depending on how you want. And there's also lighting included. I'm actually very curious. I don't know, I'm really thinking about building this set maybe one day. This looks like a pretty cool technical representation of the shuttle. And with that, we're moving on to Mork, and here we have a new set, the Steampunk Train bookend. So that's interesting. So BlueBrixx has done a lot of book nooks in the past, which were very, very cool. I think BlueBrixx did also one, I'm not so sure, but the Mork approach here is not a book nook, but this is more like a bookend, like the name suggests, and it's quite interesting. Let's go to this picture here. You have different variants what you can do. So first of all, you have the locomotive and you have the car. Both of them are quite short, like almost in an anime kind of style, so obviously far too short, so it's not very realistic, but you can still use it like a regular train. I think it should go on regular tracks. And then you have the two bookend pieces, and like I said, you can use them as a diorama piece, including the train, or you can pull it, take the train off and just use it, I don't know, put it somewhere else on the shelf and just use the train station as the bookend pieces. So it's quite flexible. From a size perspective, it's around, the highest point is 27.5 centimeters, 13.5 in depth, and the two pieces together around 40 centimeters in width. So quite an interesting idea. There is also lighting included. I guess this is a light brick similar situation, batteries included. Obviously, I think, yeah, to put this on a regular basis, this is not very practical usually, but I'm just guessing here, I should say. But most of these sets, almost all of them, basically have a battery box included, no USB connection. But again, this is just guessing. At this point in time, you can order this thing in Asia for around $42. With that, we're moving on to Mould King, and here we have a new roller coaster. So Dong Dong, the designer that is collaborating here with Mould King, has done a roller coaster in the past. So this was the 11012, which was a pretty cool set, and especially if you compare it to the Lego roller coasters, it was really a bargain because this thing was enormous. However, on the technical side, it had slight problems with the cars, so the cars were basically not going around the loop. A little bit of lubricant or a little bit of oil actually did fix this, but of course this is not perfect, so I'm really interested what the quality of this set is going to be. It looks like from a car's perspective it's a bit easier to handle, but because it seems to be a bit more simple, a bit more steep, and there's no loop included, which of course is the hardest to get around. So yeah, I think this thing should work quite well because everything else was pretty good. And yeah, let's see how this one goes. It has, of course, an entirely different design. It's more like a brown finish. It has 2,174 pieces, but it's still enormous. I mean, there's a pirate ship included, and overall, I think there was here, look at the centimeters. So this thing is like 60 by 45 in size, and then almost 56 centimeters in height. It's motorized, of course. Motorization is included in the price. I think you cannot even buy this one without the electrics. So pretty cool. 2,174 pieces. You can buy this now in China for around $100. So that's a bargain. That's 4.6 cents a piece. And again, there's electrics included. And like I said, quality, usually Mould King means BlueBrixx pieces, and this is very high quality stuff. Anyhow, then we're moving on to a very weird set that I do not really understand. So this is a ship. I call it the Imperial Frigate, the 13192 by Mould King, 3,580 pieces. And for whatever reason, it says Imperial Frigate on the ship. All of that makes sense. And then on the box here, or on the picture that I do have, it says Imperial Star Destroyer. Which is strange, and it used 2 colons, or 3 actually. So which sounds like, okay, I need to avoid a trademark. it's quite weird. I don't know why they did it. My guess is some way of very weird search engine optimization, like folks looking for Star Wars Imperial Star Destroyers are going to find this set. I don't know. Maybe it's a joke. Maybe this entire picture is completely wrong. I don't know. But what I can say, I will put this on my favorites list in the set TV because I definitely want to have this thing in my hands one day. I need to figure this out. So if that was the intent of Mould King, it did work out. But yeah, let's ignore this weird name thingy. And again, this may be just a mistake on the box, but I guess not, knowing a bit of Mould King's track record here. But let's come back to the ship itself. It's an interesting model. It's a bit like bulky, especially on the back. Not really sure if I like that, but yeah, I think it's next to that, it has 3 masts. It's very long, 90 centimeters, 59 in height and 28 in width. So Mould King has done a lot of these large sailing ships in the past. Like I said, this is a bit different here, but yeah. Anyhow, if you're interested in this kind of thing, then here you go. And then they have what they call the Styx pirate ship, the 13193. And yeah, it's one of these pirate ghost ships. It has 3,769 pieces, so it is slightly bigger. However, you can basically buy it in China for around the same price, 125 bucks roughly. Again, that includes this with shipping and everything into Central Europe. But yeah, I'm personally not a big fan of these kind of ghost ships. They have done this in the past, but it's not really my cup of tea. However, if this is your thing, and I guess this could be one of the very few white sailing ships. So here you go, 3,769 pieces, not too shabby. And then 2 quick updates on 2 diamond block sets, which is also something that we have added in the past into SetTB. Both nano blocks / diamond blocks and also micro blocks or micro brick size, whatever you may call it. And also Jaka as an entirely different system. Just keep in mind, usually I have these sets in the database, so if you have them in your collection, you can maintain them, right? I mean, if you use the collection feature in the SetDB, where you basically put in all your sets that you have collected, and by the way, you can also rate these sets from within your collection. This is why I added them. They are also in the search, etc. However, I do not put them into the categories and all this, in all the taxonomies that I do have in the SetDB. Then the simple reason is that I think it would confuse people, and you know, people may say, hey, this is an awesome set, it's quite cheap, let's just buy it, and may oversee that this is not the stuff that they are used to. This is why I keep it out of there. But nevertheless, it is all in the database, and I have now thousands or hundreds at least of these diamond, nanoblock, Jaka, etc. sets. I think it should be almost like 2,000 at this point. Anyhow, so if you look at the price point, for instance, this thing has 423 pieces. They're going to cost you over here in Europe, including tax, just $6, which is 1.5 cents a piece. And that is the point. Folks may think, hey, this is cheap, right? This is a bargain. But as you can already see on the picture, these things are very, very tiny. I mean, I don't know. I don't have a size measure, but trust me, this is tiny. But it looks pretty cool. It's a mantis. It's from the insect world of MOYU, and you can buy it over here in Europe for $6, as you can do with the Emperor, which is, of course, a butterfly, or whatever you may call it. It's the 97128. By the way, the praying mantis was 97127, and the same thing, a bit more than 400 pieces, 466 to be precise, and it's going to cost you over here in Europe $6. That was that with set updates. With that, we're moving on to a couple of reading recommendations. So I have been busy in recent weeks. We have published a ton of reviews. For those of you who see this show on YouTube, you may be familiar with my YouTube short format, but however, all the sets that I put in the shorts, I never build a set just to make a short about it. The short is more like an afterthought. Most and foremost, I'm doing full reviews. A lot of full video reviews over here in Germany. I don't do these in English, just don't have the time. But from time to time, I also do written reviews, and you can find them if you go to merlinsbrixx.com or setdb.org, which will actually lead you to MerlinsBrixx. There's over here a navigation entry called articles, and there you can see all my reviews. So I have been very busy recently. Of course, I looked at the new Star Wars wave, the Bark Speeder, Moff Gideon's battle, the ambush on Mandalore, and of course Captain Rex, but of course developers. As always, we are not only doing Lego over here, so there's a Mould King Challenger. We looked into very recently at the COS riders. No, this is actually wrong. This is the wrong picture. Okay, I will look into this. This is the wrong title. No, this is the wrong picture, actually. It's good that I take a look at this. This was actually the COS riders we looked into. And yeah, from Fantasy. Amazing. They have the Kung Fu Panda license. And if that is your cup of tea, they did an amazing set series. However, the title picture is completely wrong. I will fix this as soon as this is finished. But long story short, there's a ton of stuff in here. We also look from time to time into lighting kits. So we looked into the BlueBrixx kit for the Batman Gotham City set. We looked into the light-tailing kit for the Dungeons & Dragons set. So if this is your cup of tea, then here you go. I will link down below in the video description / podcast show notes as far as it is possible. For instance, you cannot do this on TikTok, but on the other platforms, I will link everything down below. So if you're interested, just give it a go. With that, we're moving on to MOCs of the week, where I select a few new available MOCs on Rebrickable to talk about them here. This is only a small selection. Obviously, Rebrickable as a platform is now publishing hundreds of these every week or every month. But I can only talk about a handful. But this one here is interesting. By Queasy142, tram tracks with tram stop. Actually, he has published a ton of these, like tracks, but also city road, subway tunnels, etc. And the idea is to have a modular concept that you can use in order to build your own city. All of them are on a sandwich platform, which in this case, or a MIPS platform, whatever you might call it, and in this case, he even used it to basically sync the tracks in. I mean, it's not like 100% like a tram. I think for that he would have had to go even one plate height deeper, but already it looks very, very cool, much more realistic than just, putting the tracks on top. Pretty cool stuff. And like the name suggests, this is entirely modular. You just use a couple of Technic pins and you can put this together to make your own city. Pretty cool concept. So I do recommend take a look at it. And then Chris Romans has worked again on all of his miniature set collection, and here he has also now worked on the Lego dioramas and made micro versions of these, which is interesting because the dioramas, some of them are already in kind of a micro format, right? In fact, 3 of these 6 that you see here right now are minifigure scale. The other 3 are already something. No. 1, 2, 3. No, 4 of them are minifigure scale. 2 of them are more kind of a micro architecture kind of scale. So the pod race and the trench run diorama. The other 3 are minifigure scale. And he shrank them down. I'm a huge fan of the Chris Romans designs. He has done like, I don't know, dozens of these. It's unbelievable. Like, I mean, just look at the ideas collection here. And I'm usually a huge fan. I'm not so sure about these. I mean, some of them are really cool. I think the Endor Speeder Chase diorama is very, very cool. I think the Throne Room has the problem that this is a set that is around the minifigures, and without the minifigures, I think it's not really working for me. The trash compactor is the same thing, but Pod Racer worked very, very well. And even Yoda's Hut, which has some micro nano figures included, brick build, also works very well. So I think it really depends. But yeah, all in all, cool idea. So if you don't have the space for the Lego dioramas, this may be your cup of tea. And then Orchid Builds has worked on a redwood tree. So this is put into the Rebrickable database as a modification of the Lego treehouse, the 21318. And I picked this one because I'm actually, for my Endor MOC that I'm currently working on, I have to build a couple of redwoods. I mean, this thing here is huge. I cannot make them that big in my MOC. It's not a small MOC, but I cannot do redwoods like these. But I think it's a cool approach, and I assume that he used, I've actually not looked into instruction, but I assume this is like also very robust construction, similar to what Lego has done with the treehouse. I mean, you can already see on the preview pictures, there's Technic involved in order to get this thing robust. So yeah, if you're into large trees and you're looking for a couple of good robust, but also good looking building techniques, I think here you go. I think it's pretty good looking. Like I said, for me, it's too big. I think I will go more like in a 4x4 stud format, which actually he is using here on our Orchid builds. I actually don't know if it's he or she, but the designer has used, I think, a 4x4 or 3x3 even at the end design, which is something I'm also looking into. However, like I said, I cannot do this from the beginning like it is done here. With that, we're moving on to an amazing design, if you ask me, from BlueBrixx, because this designer did something that you don't see that often. He made a Lego set a lot better, because I've not been a big fan of the medieval town square. I think it's too simple, too old school in many ways. It's too bare bone in many areas, and it really needs its stickers, its enormous sticker sheet. Otherwise, it's not working very well. So what BlueBrixx has done here, basically shrunk the entire set down. Again, it's an alternate build, so the only thing you need is the original set, and then you can build this out of it. And I don't know, let me know in the comment section what you believe, but I think this looks better, definitely better than the original. It's more detailed, it's more playful, if you will. It feels more like Lego compared to the Lego set. So really, really cool. I do like this set. With that, we're moving on to a pretty cool display stand from Gabizon for the 7692 the Ford Mustang set. And I think this is something I've talked about in the past. I'm a big fan of this concept, you know, not just buy a ton of speed champions, throw them on the shelf, but instead have a full-blown diorama to basically present the set. Obviously, this won't work if you have an enormous collection, also collecting from other brands, like, I don't know, Mould King is doing these 8-stud cars like crazy. Obviously, this won't work if you have 100 of these, but if you have only a small collection, if you're a petrolhead or a car enthusiast, this may be for you. 478 pieces in the Mork, $2. And actually, Gabizon has done a ton of these on his Rebrickable account, which is very cool. Also like the Audi one. With that, we're moving on to the last one, and surely not least, Back to the Future, Hill Valley. BlueBrixx has created this amazing Mork. 531 pieces is all you need for everything your heart can desire as a Back to the Future fan. This is an amazing diorama. Pretty cool, I think, if you're a fan of the movie, and it really shows what you can do with this diorama format. Pretty cool set, a lot of amazing scenes from all the different movies, right? I mean, yeah, you have it all in just one tiny diorama with only 531 pieces. With that, we at the end. I do hope you liked the show. For those of you who watch this, or it doesn't matter, wherever you watch this or listen to it, please leave a like, rating, comment, follow, subscribe. It is called very different on every platform, but in a nutshell, I highly appreciate if you provide me with feedback, and of course, if you follow me on all the different social media, audio and video outlets. With that, thanks for listening. See you next week.